Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. So today we're going to talk about, not going to talk about reviews, we're going to talk about me and my modelling journey in 2023. It's a very short journey, I'm afraid. So people keep asking me, saying, what are you building at the moment, Pete? And what are you building next? And I've got to be honest with you. This has been probably my most abysmal year for builds, model building, certainly since I came back to the hobby, probably in the early 90s, 91 I think it was. I've built one model, and it was the Sea Harrier, and that took me a year. I started April the 1st last year and finished on the last day of March this year. Just in time for the anniversary of the Falklands War. In fact April the 1st it was, in fact, yeah, April Fool's Day. No joke though. So it's quite abysmal really, and yeah, a number of reasons. I did have some issues last year. I had a problem, a sort of shoulder elbow thing which was affecting me. This year, I mean, I got the thing done, the Sea Harrier from Kinetic, of course, which most of you know about from my rants. Not a terrible model, but just a very badly conceived, especially in terms of its instructions. I keep getting accused of saying that it was unbuildable. I never said that at all. If it was unbuildable, I wouldn't have built it, would I? Anyway, it's built and it's a fine looking thing, I've got to be honest. I battle through to the bitter end, but it shouldn't be like that really, and I've commented at length. Anyway, moving on from that. So that kind of sapped a lot of my enthusiasm for building, not for models, not for kits, not at all. The enthusiasm burns very brightly, as you could probably tell from my channel. But I've just not been getting the glue out, and it's just like, oh, you know, I don't want to go through another long battle. And I did say, you know, that was it. I wasn't going to build any more crap kits. Now I have been doing some building since August onwards, and I'm filming this right at the end of September. October is now here, of course. As you watch this, I think it's the 3rd of October. And I always said, many of you have commented on this, saying I regard model building season as when the clocks, I was going to say when the clocks go back, but when the dark nights start, so before the clocks go back, October basically. For me it's October till March, it's prime modelling season. And I just don't, not deliberately, you know, I haven't got a rule or anything, I just don't feel the joy and I don't feel the motivation and the mojo and the drive I need to build during the summer months. I just can't find the energy to do it, and it's a winter hobby for me. I'm not saying it should be for anybody else, please don't misunderstand me. It's just the thing in me, I just can't get the get up and go to start building. I just run out of all enthusiasm. Anyway, that's all over now because here we go, we're going into October. So, thought we'd have an update. You probably just saw, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. I've been building the Takom, Sea Dart and Sea Wolf. Very slowly, obviously. I mean, I am obviously, I've talked about this in the past, I am a very meticulous builder. I'm a perfectionist, but not perfect by miles. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But it does slow me down. I'm a bit OCD, and in everything about the way I go about building these kits, it's very sort of OCD and Ron Dennis-like. For those of you that don't know, Ron Dennis was he was the chairman and CEO of McLaren, the racing car and car building sports car company, for many years. And whilst I've always had this passion for Formula One, what always impressed me about Ron, I sort of learned about in the mid-late 80s, was his approach to things was very, very methodical, very close attention to detail, and I've sort of followed in that way. That's the way I do things as well. It's not all beer and skittles though, because it makes you horribly slow. It's painfully slow at my building, you know. I watch many model builders, you know, building the same kits as me in a quarter of the time or less, you know. Phil Flory will build a kit in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and it takes me a year, you know. Slight exaggeration, but not that much. It's not I don't go about it in a very intense way, and I have to be in the mood and I want to do it in that way because that gives the best results for me. Not something I'm recommending to other people at all. And as I've said before in one of my other videos, that people like Phil Flory and you know, Spencer Pollard, another genius modeller, They're probably achieving better results than me anyway. They've probably got more experience in many areas. But it doesn't matter, you know. Don't be put off when you see these great modelers and their fantastic results. Don't anybody else be put off by that. Just I mean, in the case of Phil, anyway, I'm in the Flory Forum. Everybody knows that, I think. But he's a great inspiration in terms of helping people to learn techniques, including me. So you know, there's no reason to be put off if you're not at that level yet. You just like somebody said recently, just try and improve as you go along. You know, I mean, try and make every model a little bit better than the previous one. But if it isn't, it doesn't actually matter. It's just try and please yourself, and above all, enjoy your building. Now, this you know, there's been the Flory Fest just the last few days, actually, last week, when at the time of me filming this, and there was a discussion about this very subject, funnily enough, and I was nodding in agreement because people were saying, try and make it better if you can, but if it's not a failure. The most important thing about completing your kit is that you enjoy it and you like looking at it, and it doesn't matter how perfect it is. It doesn't matter if it's not as good as Night Shift or Spencer Pollard or Phil himself or anybody like that. It doesn't matter really. As long as you've enjoyed it, that's what it's all about. And I have not been enjoying the modelling. I think this is one of the things really that's been my issue. I've had quite a number of kits that I've not enjoyed. But I'm so, because of this Ron Dennis attitude, I'm so doggedly determined not to fail. I mean, even that Porsche, the 917 Porsche, which was the Le Mans Steve McQueen Gulf Porsche, took 3 years to actually get from start to finish, and that didn't go on the shelf of doom as such, but it was in that sort of holding pattern, and that is unheard of for me, for something to take that long. It wasn't a 3-year build kit, you know. You could have knocked it out in 2 or 3 weeks quite easily, but I just lost motivation for it. And this is the problem. If you're not enjoying it, and I wasn't enjoying that one either, it wasn't a brilliant kit. Not terrible, but not brilliant. And it just saps my energy a little bit, and I just think, and then I end up doing nothing, which is a shame, because what other people say, I think Matt Ball or somebody else mentioned this, and he said, just put it down and get another kit out that perhaps might make you feel happier and more enthusiastic, and then you finish that one, then you might be more motivated to go and do the tricky one. Which is great advice, you know, and I totally echo that. So with that in mind, today's video really is about, I'm going to give you a quick update, show you the C Dart, because that's the one I've completed. Not 100% complete, I haven't painted it yet, but the basic construction's completed. Now, I've not been in the mood for painting because it's been very hot here and it's been very wet and the conditions haven't been great for spraying. And I spray. People say, why don't you do a build video? I'd like to see your technique. And I bet you would. Want to see all my secrets? Naff off! No, it's not that. That's not the reason. I'm not protecting some secret ingenious systems and techniques at all. But it's my sorry, I'm still laughing there. My system for spraying is very crude. Not the spraying itself. I use a very nice Iwata airbrush. I've also got one of these Fender brushes. I'm not really getting on with that so much. I'm gonna use that mainly for primers, I think, and top coats and things like that. But I've got a beautiful Iwata which I've had now for 15 years. I like 14 years. Impressive though, you know, 14 years is a long time to have an airbrush, and it still looks like new, and it works beautifully. So, but I have this technique about, I've mentioned it before, about I haven't got a spray booth. I did have one, but for reasons that one or two of my viewers will know, I haven't got an ideal setup in terms of ventilation for a spray booth. So I end up spraying in the wife's kitchen. This can cause some problems, yeah. So I actually stand with the kitchen door open and spray out the kitchen door. So we have to have the right weather, joking apart, we have to have the right weather to allow that. And you know, when I was doing the Gulf Porsche Le Mans car, Steve McQueen's race car, and I was spraying the Gravity 2K clear coat, which is lethal stuff, very, very poisonous. That required a lot of preparation, and given my scenario, and this is the reason you don't get build vids from me, or not spray vids anyway. Actually, the other reason is, there's two reasons. One is I don't actually like build videos. I think that they are, with the exception of somebody showing you specific techniques, again like Phil Flory does, Very interesting when they do specific techniques, but just watching people build, what is the point of it? Why don't you just spend that time building a kit yourself? If they're showing you something particularly interesting and new techniques or new ideas, that's absolutely great. But a lot of the build videos are just building models, and I sit there and say, well, I can spend an hour watching this, or I can just go and spend an hour building a model. And that's the way I think of it, and I think it's dead boring, really, generally speaking. With lots of exceptions, but a lot of them, no, I just can't be bothered watching them. I'm certainly not going to shoot them, and I'm certainly not going to edit them. And people don't appreciate that. And if you haven't got a YouTube channel, you probably don't appreciate the sheer effort that goes into, especially these people who are doing these build videos. I do take my hat off to them, because some of them are beautifully edited, you know, and it takes a lot of your time, and that's before you actually do the upload to YouTube, which is very intense, and that takes a lot of monitoring, and there could be a lot of problems along the way, and it's not easy. It's not as easy as people think. A lot of work goes into these, and the money you get back, not going into a moan or rant here, but it's disproportionately laughable. It's pathetic. It's enough to. It's probably enough to keep me in beers per week just while I'm watching my own videos. That's all. That's nothing. Yeah, it's pathetic. Anyway, we won't moan about that. But I'm not here really for the money. I'm here for the fun of it. And I'm not keen on these people that are, and again, I'm not criticising anybody here, but some people are going on and using Patreon, and some people are getting donations, and I don't like any of that. That doesn't sit well with me. I'm here because I have a passion for the subject, and I'm very driven by perfectionism, which there's no such thing as perfect in anything, people or models for that matter. But trying to strive for perfection is a driver for me, and this drives a lot of the comments I make about kits, my own meagre skills and things like that, you know, and also the manufacturers. I've been doing these manufacturers videos, which have been a bit critical, people might think, but I don't think any of it is undeserved criticism. I think that it's constructive criticism, because in every case I've said what the solutions are for the manufacturers that are creating issues, or sometimes for themselves. Edouard, Revel in particular. And I'm trying to be constructive, because I'm actually saying what they need to do to get out of whatever problems they have or are creating. So anyway, in summary, I'm a slow builder. I don't build enough, that's for sure. But when I do build, I do it in a very high quality, intense way, with a great attention to detail, cleaning the airbrush. People laugh and think I'm joking about this, but I do clean my airbrush every time I use it, every colour. So if I'm doing a lot in the middle of a kit, spray job, I can clean the airbrush 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, no problem at all. Strip it down completely, and again, this is why, with that, because I'm using Iwata and it's premium precision stuff. People have said, "Oh no, you knack your airbrush." I don't have any issues, really. I don't have any issues. I change my needle every 12-18 months anyway, and the nib. And I have to say, with the quality of Iwata's engineering, it doesn't give me any problems at all. And every time I spray, I get no contamination, I get no old colours or metallic flakes accidentally speckling into my paint. I don't have painting accidents like that. The only time I have a painting accident is when I put too much in the colour cup and it vomits out and I start shaking it too much. This happens frequently. I did destroy a rather nice mat we had in the kitchen, which didn't go down very well, that, with the wife, to be honest. We had to get a brand new mat because I had this nice grey one and sort of gone olive green, big blotches of olive green on it. Ouch. Anyway, there we go. So I just thought I'd share this with you, because some of you say, why don't you do a build video, why don't you show us this? And yeah, and I can do. I still prefer my system of, I think I like the fireside chat style video. It's more natural. I think a lot of you do seem to enjoy that, I have to say, without cuts and jumps and edits, you know. And there's a need for you to see what I'm doing, and a need to see some of the process, and that's why I do lots of photographs. And actually I haven't taken many photographs of this sea dart, but I'm not doing any painting yet. Normally what I do is I paint quite early in the process, quite a lot of my kits, especially the things that are very high precision, like the racing cars or motorbikes, things like that. it's paint as you go, and then it's all at the end. It's just like an assembly, really, of the final parts, which I quite like. It's kind of suits my way of doing things in this very meticulous, step-by-step way. A lot of other people seem to, and they're the ones that are having more fun. I think they do it like I'm doing this one. Actually, they just build it and then paint it and then weather it, and it's done. My way is very slow and laborious, and it wasn't applicable to something like that anyway. So also with that, we'll talk about this later, that the board of the 88mm gun, the flat gun, that could be done in the same way. That could be done, just build it and then do the painting at the end and the weathering, which is good because it means that if I was to do that and paint as you go, there aren't that many paints. That's the beauty of that particular kit, really, which I think is why I got that as a gift, because it takes away one of my problems with board, really. But it's nice if you can do that, and you can sort of get some bit old school, really. Just paint it at the end in one go, sort of thing, which is nice to do. But a lot of kits, you've got a lot of interior details, and there's a lot of sort of a slog to get through, a lot of fine stuff that you've got to work on, cockpits and things, racing car interiors and engines and all that stuff. So you can't really do it that way. So it's quite a breath of fresh air for me to be able to do it. Anyway, the point is, I'm one of the slowest builders I know, frankly, if not the slowest. But the results are always good. Not perfect, I'm not bragging here at all, but people always say, that does look nice, So it's kind of worth it. Now, there's going to be one or two kits where, as I say, I need to change that technique a little bit, but I'm still going to be it's quite slow, I suppose. But why don't we talk about... We'll talk about the progress I've got with this one, and then this is a video I haven't made for a couple of years, what my future builds are going to be, near and sort of medium term, shall we say, short medium term builds, what they're going to be, because people enjoy that, to see what you're going to be doing. And I stopped doing these videos, this type of video, simply because they turned out to be lies, really. They weren't not lies, because lies infers intentional deceiving, but they didn't turn out to be accurate, let's put it that way. And I would say, yeah, I'm going to build this, I'm going to build this, I'm going to build this, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. And I think we all do this, in fairness. And somebody said, oh, we all do that, don't worry about that, because somebody asked me and said, oh, why don't you do a video about what you're going to be building and what your plans are, your build schedule, for the next 12, 18 months or something. And I thought, oh no, because I don't do that anymore. But I think people kind of miss it, and they're interested because they may have the same kits. So I thought I'd return to it. Now, it may not be 100%, that's putting it mildly, it may not be 100% accurate, and it may not turn out the way I plan. People sometimes pop up and I may get a gift or something that, I've got the situation, I've had a gift recently which I wasn't expecting, which is that 88mm gun, which is probably going to be accelerated up the list, really, in terms of I'll explain the reasons why in a minute, and that's one reason. And then obviously I get these kits from ICM, and I think I'm obliged at some point in the not too distant future to build one or two of those. That would be nice, because I think they expect me to do that, which is not unreasonable. But I had this vision in my mind about doing this Falklands thing. This is obviously now 18 months out of date, 18 months late. Because I was going to do the Sea Harry, I was going to do these missiles, and I was going to do the HMS Invincible. And I still feel my father did some very small works on the Invincible when it was before it was commissioned. So I feel a little bit obliged to do that. I'm not sure exactly when, but I'm going to try. It's the Revell 1/700th kit, the old Dragon kit. I'm not getting it out here because every time I get it out, I think, oh, this is going to be one of those nightmare builds, Not a nightmare build, really, but it's got a lot of flaws, and it's got these raised panel lights on the deck, which are just like these fences almost. They're terrible. So it's going to need a bit of work. But I'm going to try and slot that in at some point. I'm going to try and make that something I sort of pick up and put down again. And it'd be nice to get it finished, and then have my 3 sort of Falklands kit sets together. That would be really nice in my cabinet. So I mentioned that one, I haven't got it in front of me, but that's the only one that I'd probably like to build fairly soon, which is not here on the desk. So let's look at the rest. First of all, we'll have a little nosy at. I'm going to give you the reasons as well why I want to build various kits. Let's have a look first of all at the Sea Dart from Tacom. Now I've got to say, a number of months ago when I was talking about this, one of the subscribers, James Moe, he piped up and he said, "Be careful with Tacom." Now this has been very prophetic words. He said, "Be careful with Tacom. I've been doing this Yamato gun turret and had some issues with the plastic. It's nicely moulded, beautiful, but it's very, very hard, and it takes the living daylights in terms of life out of your cutters." And he was not wrong at all. And it's a bit of an eye-opener. Don't forget, I also have got this huge 16 scale Tiger 1. And it's making me really nervous, the idea of building that. Because he joked and said, "You're going to need about 5 pairs of cutters to build that kit." And I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, having had some experience of what he meant, I'm thinking, he's not wrong, is he? Oh God, this is going to be horrendous. So it is a kit I'd like to build, that big Tiger, but I'm just having a bit of a confidence lift on that one, making me a bit nervous because it's quite. You cut it, and you've got you've got to obviously with your nippers. Then you've got to maybe use the blade. Then you've got to use your sander, and it's very resistant to being sanded as well. It's really hard. So it's almost like polyester rather than polystyrene. It's really weird. Anyway. Let's have a look at the one I'm working on. This is the Tacom, as I say. So this is the Sea Dart. It's Sea Dart and Sea Wolf. And Sea Dart, the basic completion is done. It's not 100% finished, actually, if I'm completely honest, because it's actually sitting on its base now, but it's not actually glued to the base. For ease of painting, I'm going to do that at the end. But you can see the 2 Sea Dart missiles there. I'll just turn it around a bit for you. You can see them at the side. Now I will do an after build video on this when we're done, because there was one issue, big issue with it, where there was a very poor illustration. It was almost kinetic like. It shows them from a strange angle, not very large. It doesn't show a side profile till it's too late. And I actually got my fins on, 2 of my fins. They have 1, 2, 3 lots of fins. One of these lots is not correct. And to correct it would really wreck it. So I've decided that nobody's going to know. Oh, God, they are now, aren't they? They're all going to look at it. I've just told the whole world. But anyway, but be wary. And now I broke my own rule here, going back to the Sea Harrier problem, and this comment that's been made about me saying it was unbuildable. I never said that. Otherwise, how did I build it? But that is the same issue there, but on that I knew it was going to be bad, so I had zillions of photos, lots of reference photos, and I was constantly researching. And this with Tacom, I trusted Tacom, and that was a bit of a mistake, I'm afraid, because they show it at a very ambiguous angle, these fins, where it's not obvious which way around it's supposed to be, and then a few frames later over the page it shows it looking completely different, and that was the problem. So that's very frustrating. But that apart, it's gone together really well. I think you'll agree it looks fairly smart actually. Once painted and weathered up, yeah, it looked quite cool. Now whether I do it as some sort of a diorama, and we have a bit of a, like a missile launch or something, I'm very tempted to consider that, but it could be quite time consuming, so I'm not sure. It wouldn't really lend itself to my cabinet necessarily in terms of space. But there we go, they're coming along as you can see. Just needs I'm not bothered painting them because I might as well do they're basically the same paint job essentially. Not the missiles themselves but the rest of it. So I thought, well, why bother painting them until the end until you've got both missile systems completed. So that's that. I'm going to move that safely off to one side, he says, hopefully. Move it away over there. Sea Wolf is the next one to come. And now we're going to talk about what I plan to build in the next sort of year and a bit, to the end of 24 basically. So here we go. So you can see some of it already, I know. So once I've got my missile system out of the way, which will be fairly soon I think, hopefully by Telford I should have that finished. Not that I'm taking it to Telford. I don't want to face the harsh judgment of my peers. Brings me out in a sweat just thinking about it, to be honest. Something else that was being talked about by the Flory team, Phil Flory and co, a very interesting point that I totally agree with them about. They were debating at the weekend. Well, they were talking about model competitions, and I've only ever entered a model competition once, and this is when I was younger, much younger, and it wasn't at a proper modelling show or anything like that. It was a local, quite an upmarket, like a cultural, handicrafts, agricultural show that had everything, and there was a modelling section, and I entered my Tamiya Formula 1 car. It was the Ferrari 312 T312 T4 that was driven by Gilles Villeneuve in the 1979 Formula 1 season. Villeneuve, of course, died rather horrifically in an accident in '82, but he was known for being a bit of a risk taker and a daredevil, so it came as no great surprise, I'm afraid. But this particular car, he won several races in '79 and came second in the championship to his team leader, Jody Scheckter. Anyway, and this is interesting, I don't know if anybody else has had this experience. This is a very strange thing that happened. I entered it in this event, like a county show it was essentially. And there was lots of models that were excellent, but there weren't that many. There was about 20, I think. And I went back to look at it after the judging had finished, and I got first prize. And I went to tell my parents, because I was about 14 or 15 at the time. I went to find my parents to show them. And when I dragged them back to the table, the first prize had gone, and it had been put on another model, which I was really upset about. I don't know to this day exactly what went on here, but my auntie and uncle were quite, how can I put this? They were quite high up in the local the committee, I think, that organised this show, and I explained to them what happened. They said, my uncle said. My Uncle Robert, bless him, sadly no longer with us, a great guy, and he said, I'll look into this, and he went storming off, and about half an hour later he came back and said, it's all fixed now. He said, I think somebody on the committee has got a relative who thought that he should get the first prize. He said, and you won it fair and square. He said, and it's all been put back right. So even then there was controversy. This has put me off model competitions forever. Because even that one I entered, and I won it in the end. I've still got the ticket somewhere, saying first prize in the modelling competition. I mean, it wasn't fantastically weathered or anything, but it was a very complex kit, and I got the colours right and everything. It's nice, you know, and it was done by a teenager, so it was excellent, really. But there were others that were excellent, but it was great. It just left a bit of taste in the mouth. I had to fight to get it reinstated as the winner. Well, I don't know why, what exactly went on, but rather uncomfortable experience. And that has certainly put me off modelling competitions. Anyway, coming back to Phil Flory and his team, Matt Ball and Andy and John and Nathan, they were all talking about this. And Phil in particular was saying, I don't do model competitions anymore. You know, he said you go into some competitions, including Telford, and he said, sometimes the judges have entered kits themselves, models themselves. Well, I was shocked to hear that. I didn't know that. I'm not alleging anything here. I'm not criticising anybody, but in any competition, no competitor should also be a judge. That is not values and ethics, is it? I don't understand that at all. That was pretty horrific. And that's, yeah, I don't enter competitions, that's for sure. I've got no plans to do so in the future. You know, I mean, a point was actually made by, I think it was by Phil himself, and he said something about, you know, and I recognised this straight away, and he said, if you walk round, actually, he said, the trouble is a judge he might be like a Formula 1 enthusiast, or he might be a, you know, Wehrmacht enthusiast, or a Luftwaffe enthusiast, or an RAF, or American Air Force, or French Air Force. He could be an enthusiast for a particular subject, and it can sway him. So it's never going to be very objective. And he said that he thought that last year's winner should become one of the judges automatically, which I thought was a good idea. That's a great idea, actually. And he also made the point, which I've said before myself, you walk around Telford and you actually see models on those tables just around the display from the various clubs and groups. Some of them are as good, if not better, than some of them. I'm not generalising, but you do get one or two you think, wow, that should be in the competition area. That's incredible, you know. How can that not be in the competition? And you do get exceptional stuff. I mean, last year there was one, and I think it was a first prize winner, which clearly was merited, which was the Dambuster one, the Les Munro Dambuster Lancaster, where it drops its upkeep mine in practice near Chesil Beach, and it dropped it too low, and it bounced up and hits the tail. That was very cleverly done with the whole diorama. Beautiful. Anyway, digressing a little bit here, but no, it's interesting just talking about modelling competitions. And I mean, I've got one or two that I could probably enter into a competition, but I think politics comes into it, and I don't think people are objective, and it becomes competitive. We don't want that. I don't think we need that in modelling, actually. I think the less competition is the better. Just enjoy everybody's unique take on it, you know, a personal impression of whatever the subject is. Anyway, I'm rambling, but so let's get back to the main subject. So I think the first one that's probably going to get built is probably going to be the Airfix Harrier. Now this is probably going to be to do with the Flory Forum. They have their turkey shoot build where everybody builds a kit over the weekend last year, and this is quite stressful, I found, actually. So whether I can succeed in building that in time, I'm not sure really. Trouble is, my method, as I've talked about, my method does not lend itself to speed builds, I've got to be honest. And the trouble is, if I do it, and I did last year, I was successful. I did it with about 30 minutes to spare, which was just the V2 German rocket, complete with stand and little towing apparatus. And I did it, and I struggled. You know, I struggled to do that over the weekend. I actually didn't start it till the Friday night, so I had 48 hours, and I really just did it in time. And it was fairly straightforward kit. Getting everything right. The problem is I want to have a kit I'm still proud of, not just throw something together. So whether I actually do this or do a matchbox. Now, one of the other subscribers, a friend of a subscriber, David, I think it is, he said that he might want to do one of these as well. So maybe we'll do it as like a buddy build or something. I don't know. But that's going to get built soon. I know I'd like to have a GR1. I've not had done the GR1 for a number of years since I've built the matchbox one. I won't get out and review it because there's already a review. If you look at the Tale of Three Harriers, you'll see it. But it looks doable. I think if I got a move on, I could perhaps get that done. Maybe. If I started it early on the Thursday night, might get it done for the Sunday. Remains to be seen, really. Remains to be seen. You'll have to see how we get on. But I'd like to get that done. So that should be a very quick build, relatively speaking. Got a feeling that'll take a week. Well, that's number one. So what I'm saying to you here, these are my intentions. They're not guaranteed. They're not guaranteed. I guarantee you to start the first two or three. I'm definitely going to have a go at. Okay, so I'm not fibbing to you. I'm not spinning you a tale here. I'm going to try and get these underway. But going back to the very sort of initial thing I talked about. The reason I've not been building much because I've been a bit, you know, people can see my love and enthusiasm for model kits is very strong, but the graft that's needed, you know, it takes a while, shall we say, and it's it sort of eats into your time, and I mean, I have a job, you know, so I don't have unlimited time. So basically, it's important to try to do it in a way that is reasonable and have it not take over your life. I think that's the biggest issue here. So whether I do this for the turkey shoot thing, the weekend thing, whether I do that or whether I do a matchbox. Oh, don't wash your mouth out. A matchbox, what am I saying? Maybe I can find one of the Revell ones. I might have a Revell matchbox, Rebox or something like that. Something quick and easy that'd be fun. But I'd like to do that. And if I don't do it as the weekend build, I might do it as this buddy build thing. So that's going to be done. So I'm going to move that to one side. So remember, that's going to be one of the first ones. Going to be the Harrier. Then Then the time pressure clicks in because obviously we've only got a month until Telford. And by the way, sorry, I should explain. That's probably not going to be first necessarily because this on the Flory forum, the turkey shoot is the Thanksgiving weekend. You know, so that's the American Thanksgiving weekend, and that's where the turkey shoot name comes from. So that's at the end of November, of course. So I can't sit idly by doing nothing until the end of November, but that's going to be sort of slotted in as a small one. So we'll call that as a separate. The next focus for me, once I get these rockets done, missiles, is December. You know, we've got the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. It's not a big anniversary this year, of course, but we have this idea I've talked about several times in the past and never got round to, of doing the final countdown movie type, like a diorama with a 0 and the Tomcat. And the greatest of all Tomcats, don't let anybody tell you any differently. No, it isn't Great Wall Hobby, which is got some stupid ideas in it. I mean, I've not built it, granted, but I have not decided to review that new Great Wall Hobby, because it's very expensive. Although in the UK there are some very good deals on it, but it isn't the panacea that people thought it was going to be, closing the door on the Tomcat. Now it hasn't done that at all. It's got Phoenix missiles that are made up of about, I don't know, 15 or 18 parts. Very strange. Instead of it being slide moulded in one piece like they normally do. Don't know what's going on there, but I'm digressing. You've got that, you've got AMK, you've got Academy, you've got Hasegawa, you've got all these different ones. This is the daddy, especially if you're under time pressure and you want to have a pleasurable build that's going to go together properly and give you a nice result. So I was going to do, I've got this idea to pose it some sort of in-flight diorama as the final countdown movie shows, where you've got the Tomcat and the 0 are sort of having a kind of a dogfight, and the Tomcat's got its wings forward trying to slow down, and the 0's got its throttle wide open trying to speed up. But it's a great movie if you know the scenes I'm talking about. You can see in my previous video, the final countdown, where I talk about this and I show the scenes in the background. So I'm really going to probably have a go at this. Now I've only got one kit in this. It's a dual set, but I gave the other one to a relative of mine because I didn't need two. So all this really needs, as you'll have seen from my recent Eduard rant, it just needs some new decals or maybe some paint masks, and it'll be fine, I think, with a little bit of work. But that should be doable in a fairly sensible time frame. So that could probably be my November build, working on this 0. Then we're going to be on the Tomcat. So we'll get the 0 done first, because I feel that's kind of priority for 7th of December, anniversary. The Tomcat will follow on, which might go into Christmas, I think. So by the end of the year, I'd like to have these two done. Anybody who knows the way I build is probably thinking he's not going to manage that. Anyway, we'll see. So there you go. So we're going to have a bit of final countdown. We're going to have some Eduard 0, and we're going to have this. I've been waiting to build this for ages, and it's probably one of the greatest kits ever manufactured in terms of the way it's conceived and the way it goes together. So it's time, and this was the sort of the theme of these builds for me now. It's time for me to have some fun modelling. If I'm going to be building, I'm going to be having pleasurable builds for the next. I just want to forget these nightmares I've been through. So you'll see quite a lot of Tamiya now creeping in, and that one in particular is going to be an absolute joy. I can't wait to get on with it, really. I do like a Tomcat as well. I always did, and I've got the Matchbox ones, etc. in my stash. And I think that's going to be something very special. So there we go. So that takes us pretty much to the end of the year. Now I'm going to get a bit vaguer now, because you've all seen I've got the Sheridan. These two, I've got a real strong desire to build. I have got a strong building desire to do some Vietnam War stuff, which is something I've never tackled before, and I feel is a bit of an omission in my modelling history. So obviously that's not Vietnam, that's World War II, but we'll come to that one in a second, perhaps. Many of you will have watched my recent ICM videos, and I mentioned I'd like to do some ICM work, builds. This would go perfectly with some of that, because we've got some incredible stuff there. We've got, I know this is 135th, but we've got a 135th Cobra, we've got the 148th Cobra and the 148th Bronco with all the pilots and things, and depending on how you display them, you know, these could be, you know, you could have these big ones in the background and the big smaller ones in the foreground to twist the perspective a little bit. And I've got some great stuff to go out there. So we've got Sheridan, we've got Cobras, we've got Broncos, you know, we've got we've got the big helicopter as well, the TIE, the Sky Crane, the Sikorsky Sky Crane. That's too big though. I don't think that's going to be part of that diorama. It's too big. Or could it be lifting the Sheridan? That could be really impressive. How about that? It's the same scale, isn't it? It's the same scale. I hadn't thought of that. Lifting the Sheridan. Trouble is, I haven't got room to display it. Anyway, I want to get the Sheridan now. This has got some most beautiful figures inside. This is any of you not sure about this, if you've got any appetite for it at all, you should buy this kit. I've got it with the extra metal gun barrel and the metal extras Tamiya upgrade set for the RPG shielding netting at the front. It's a cracking kit, that, and I'd like to do a bit of armour. Not done enough armour. I haven't done any armour for ages now. It's been I don't know, 3 years since I did any armour, I think. So I'd like to get that done. I definitely think that would be a very pleasurable build, and it's got all these beautiful figures with some incredible detail on them, absolutely stunning. So I'd like to get that done. Now when this is the question, because we have something that I'm going to explain in a minute that's going to possibly push these a bit further back. Certainly this one, the Vietnam stuff, might get pushed back a bit. Next year is 2024, so it's the 80th anniversary of 1944, which is one of the critical years in World War II, and a lot of things went on. So, not sure when it's going to happen, but this is not a big build, and I could probably, because it's going to be fairly pleasurable and straightforward, I could probably just do this on a piecemeal basis, you know, pick it up and put it down again. So I'd like to have a crack at that in the next 12 months. So that's coming in the not too distant. P38 Lightning. Now this fits in nicely with what I'm going to talk about now. So I mentioned 1944. So there's actually on the Flory forum they're having a special interest group build 1944. So that, and I think it runs for 6 months. So I can include in that anything from 1944 that I choose. And I've got several, so let's have a look at what we got. So we've got one you've already seen just a few days ago, weeks ago, this incredible 88mm gun. Well, that could be done in 1944 trim, so that's a 1944. Then we've got the Lightning, haven't we? So this is where the Lightning can come in. Yeah, if we do the Yamamoto one, that's obviously 19... Is that 44? 44, 43, Operation Vengeance. I'm trying to remember. My memory's gone. Was it late 43? I think it was late 43. I'm sorry, I just can't remember. But the aircraft was certainly flying around in 44 in one of those squadrons. So that's an option. This is the white box. It's got some extras, I think. It feels very heavy, this box. I know I've got extras in it. Oh, there's a magazine. There's some extra guns. I'll tell you what, this is a bit special. Let's have a look. Oh, what's that? Yeah, got metal gun barrel. Whoa. Oh, that's going to be fantastic. I can't sit it too long. Box that out. Shooting an awkward sort of path. There we go. Is that better that way? No, over that one. There we go. That's a nice kit, that. And again, goes together absolutely beautifully. Very, very nice one to consider. And if you haven't got one of those, you should definitely get yourself one. Then, something that I've had for a while, and again would be perfect for 1944. I'm not zooming in enough. How about the Jack Panther? Yes, from Meng. This is supposed to be a lovely kit. It's got some nice tracks, which I think are workable. Workable tracks, are they? Road suspension upgraded. Can be upgraded to movable suspension. Anyway, it's got PE parts. It's an absolute corker of a kit. This is a real beast. That would go nicely, and I've already got this sort of a 1944 shelf. It's kind of an Ardennes themed one. So I can make it. I mean, with this, I can make it Ardennes themed, or I can make it Normandy themed with these military vehicles. Seem a bit outnumbered on the Allied side, so how about the Achilles, yeah, the M10, the British version of the tank destroyer. And this again has got some absolutely knockout figures in it. And I've just got myself some AK model paints for the skin tone, so that should help me a lot. This, I think, again, would be a relatively quick build. I get some nice figures done and even up the balance in my cabinet, because we seem to have a lot of Germans, not enough Allies. So those would go together absolutely beautifully, wouldn't they, really? I mean, that's a real good choice, I think. And then, last but not least, something I've been itching for a long time to build. How about the Mozzie? The Mozzie. Now this has not been built. I've had this now for, my God, it's 8 years. 8 years since I was given this as a gift. And it's always been my #1 favourite kit. And the only reason it's not been built is I didn't believe that I had the room. Shelf space, but I've discovered I've got about 2 to 3 millimeters of clearance in the cabinet. Just fits if I close the cabinet doors very carefully. I think it will just fit. I hope I'm right. But I've got lots of extras in this. I've got a gun bay detail and machine gun belts and all sorts of seat belts and you name it, all the bits you need, the metal gun barrels. And it's such a stunning kit, and again would bring a lot of pleasure. So in a way, this is my sort of grail kit, almost, you know. I said that about the Tiger Tank, didn't I? This is the one I've wanted to build for a long time, and I think that I should probably get on with it, really. It'd be nice to build that. You know, bear in mind it's 80th anniversary, 80th anniversary of the Amiens prison raid. Percy Pickard and Alan Broadley sadly lost their lives in that raid, leading it to free the French resistance prisoners from the jail. I think it's the 18th of February, the anniversary, so it'd be nice if I could, I don't think I'll get it finished for the 18th of Feb, but it'd be nice if I could have that underway, you know, as a tribute to those guys. So it will be in the trim you see on the cover here, same markings. And just a beautiful model, and something that would just bring back all my love for building, basically, which has been a little bit missing lately. And I just feel I've been through this trial, the 12 trials of Heracles, of one bad kit after another, you know, Edouard Mirages and Revell F-15s and Kinetic Sea Harriers. You know, there's been a few that have been fairly average to poor, really. These in fact, I'm pretty convinced will not be like that at all. What do you think? What do you think? And what are your builds that you've got in mind for next year? Now, I think the problem with this one, of course, is the time to build. This is where I go back to my sort of Ron Dennis system of plodding, very, very close attention to detail, you know. Nothing's left to chance and blah blah, but it's going to take time, isn't it? When I built the Spitfire, I was just saying to my wife about this. Andy Molyneux on the Flory Forum is just coming toward the end of his Tamiya 32nd scale Spitfire build, and I think he's taken about 3 or 4 months. I could be wrong, forgive me Andy if I got that wrong, but I look at it and I think, yeah, that's 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 I might have taken. But when I actually built that kit, I built it in record time. Actually, I built it in 2 months. I started it on the 25th of October 2019, and I finished it on Christmas Eve. And I look at it and I was saying to my wife, and I said, I don't really know how I managed that, because that's not like me at all. It does show you how well it went together. The time is taken up with all the detailing and the weathering and the painting. It's not, you're not fighting it at all. So, and again, I did some extras on that because I enjoyed the build. I felt more motivated, so I did extra piping on the engine and cooling pipes and oil pipes, the Rolls-Royce badges on the engine, nameplates. Lots of little things were added. There's some others I can't remember. Oh yeah, the metal cannons, turned cannons from Model Master, etc. Quite a few extras I put on it because I was enjoying it so much I got really into it. Now that means that this may not take such a horrendously long amount of time to actually get through it. Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's going to take at least 3 months, 4 months, to be honest, to do it the way I do it, you know, and to really get the most out of it. I've got lots of guides, and I've got the Brett Green. Is it Brett Green or Spencer Paul? I can't remember. I think it's Brett Green's guide to building it. And I've got lots of magazine references and things, and I know the Mosquito fairly well. So there you go. So this is like a 1944 shelf. Put the light back on. 1944. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it? Should I bring these forward? I think I probably should, so you can see everything in its proper context. Get them in front. Whoops. So let's pull that out. Put that there. Let's put that there. What do you think? It's quite a selection, isn't it? I think it's for me ridiculously ambitious. I'd bet my house on not being able to get these all completed in the sort of time frame. Certainly won't be completed by June of next year, but over the whole of next year I might be able to, you know, especially if in the summer when I'm not so motivated, perhaps if I'm going through the Tamiya, things like the tank destroyer, I should say. Perhaps the more complicated stuff. I'm not sure how this one goes together, the Meng, but yeah, it'd be nice to have some not too challenging builds when I'm not that enthusiastic, and do the trickier stuff during the winter months with the long dark nights. So there we go. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it today. I thought people do like to. They're often asking me this question about what you're going to build next. Are you going to build something? And it's almost like I do it infrequently, but I try to do it very, very well. And I'm wanting to, you know, having had some bad experiences, I'm pulling back, I'm reserving myself, and I'm wanting to not have a repeat of the sort of Sea Harrier stroke Le Mans Porsche not very enjoyable build, and have some fun, which is what we should all be looking to do, really. That's what it's all about. It shouldn't be a grind. I'm not doing it for a living. It's supposed to be a hobby. It should be enjoyable, you know. But all of these things they've all got a place that I could find for them in terms of cabinet space and theme. They will all fit in, well, with the exception of the final countdown thing, because if I do this diorama, that has the potential to take up a lot of space. Not sure how I'm going to do it. I did have the idea of, I did have the concept in my mind that I might sort of have the two planes on, you know, like clear styrene rod. Don't mean styrene, clear rod, you know. But it's not styrene, is it? Anyway, you know what I mean. Slipped my mind, but the clear plastic rod. That could be enable me to pose them in an interesting way. But this might end up becoming a bit of a problem in terms of space. The only downside to it. So what I might do is have a system where I can pose them for effect when we have visitors or something, you know, or for display purposes, and then the rest of the time just have it, I don't know, sitting on their belly in the cabinet or something, just for the sake of not taking up half of the living room or the hallway, which is where my cabinets are. It has got the rather dangerous potential to do that, hasn't it? Anyway, there we go. So that's the things that I'm thinking about building. Enough of me. What are you all going to build in the next 12 months? What's your favourite kits do you think you'd like to tackle? I think we should have a discussion about it. Why don't you give me a list and we can all have a chat about it and share ideas about why we're building and what we're building and why, you know, what is there a special reason we're doing it? Is it like me, 1944 next year, or is it just some things that you've got backlogged that you think you should get built, like me with my HMS Invincible? I don't know when I'm going to fit that in. It's got to be done at some point, but it will be made. It will be made. I think every single kit in front of me that I've shown today will be built by me. I'm pledging to you that every one of those is going to be built, for sure. It's just a matter of the time scale, you know. But I'm going to try to speed up my process a little bit and maybe by using the 2 airbrushes can help. Maybe if I can think of techniques to try not to get so bogged down. For me, it's like, here's the way I describe it. Many modellers like Phil Flory, I name him because he's a classic case, he seems to be able to build very high quality kits in like a blitzkrieg operation, whereas I get bogged down in the First World War trenches with mine, you know, and end up in a slog, especially with the ones that are not so straightforward or not so pleasant. I've got to avoid digging trenches, is what I'm sort of saying. I'm sure some of you feel the same way. I'm sure some of you get into a rut with your builds and then you stick them on the shelf of doom and they may never see the light of day again, or they may never get completed again. And I know many of you, think about, not picking anybody here, but thinking about Clive with his Sea Harrier, kinetic Sea Harrier. Well, who can blame him? Yeah, oh, jeez. And he's a classic example of where we all go when he's got this thing. I think it's about 80%, maybe more, maybe 90% finished. But he's finding it hard to motivate himself to do that final 20%. And this is what I was like with the Porsche, really. It's hard sometimes. It's so difficult if you're not enjoying it and you just look at it and think, negatives come up in your head and you think, oh, do I need to spend my life doing this? You know, if you're being paid for it, like I mentioned Phil Flory, I mentioned him a few times, but he was a professional model builder, and of course that's different, isn't it? Then it's just work. You just battle through it, and I think that's one of the things that probably helps him in a way. I think it's he has a way of just battling through. He's not getting bogged down in a trench like me. He's going over the top every day, you know. But it's all about your mental approach. I think that you try not to let it beat you. I do not let any model beat me. No model has defeated me. But I'm not in it. I'm not trying to fight a war. I want to have an enjoyable hobby, and I want it to be a pleasant pastime that increases my, knowledge, improves my mental health, not makes it worse. And I think this is the problem. If it becomes a chore, then just drop it. Don't do it. Don't do anything. This is something else that I had a conversation with somebody on chat recently. I think it was Gordon, and he said, "Oh, I just can't. I can't compete." And I don't know if he used the word compete, but that was the inference of what he was saying. I can't compete with other people's quality, and I'll never get to this standard, and I'm just not good at it. And I said to him, no, it's not that you're not good at it. It's just that your expectations are a bit too high. Don't look at these guys, and this is what Phil Flory and co were all saying. You go on YouTube and you see these guys like Plasmo and Night Shift, Martin Kovac, oh my God. And I said, Martin Kovac is a genius, but he's not good for my mental health, because I'm the same as Gordon. I look at it and I think, if I lived to be 200, I'd never be as good as this. I wouldn't. It's unlikely. Some people just got natural talent. It's like painters, I mean, you go to an art gallery, you see paintings and you think, I can do as well as that. It's not that great, And then you see work and you think, wow, where does the guy get the skill and the inspiration and the creativity? The guy or girl, because there's plenty of female genius painters, and you look and you think, where do they get it from? You can't. Maybe you're born with it. I don't know, but don't let that get in the way of you enjoying. I mean, this is what I'm saying right now. I want to get back to having fun. I've got to get away from this drive, and this is the nub of the whole point of my video in a way. I'm getting back to fun. I'm going to enjoy these. I'm going to have some fun. I'm not going to allow my obsession with perfection hold me back as much this time and drag me back and drag me down, because that's what's been going on really. Let's just, as somebody said on this forum chat the other day, and they said, Just build it and don't even care if it's not as good as the last model. The only thing that's most important is that you enjoy it more than the last model. There's something to aim for. Try to enjoy it more than your last model. So choose wisely. Choose wisely. Yeah, things like that. Or that. You know. Choose wisely. Choose things that are not going to be a pain in the backside. And that's where the reviews from myself and Phil Flory and all these other people come in. Try and choose something that's not going to give you too much of a challenge. Unless that's what you want. You know, if you want to have something challenging, you want to do a Mach 2, VC10 or whatever. I can never imagine building something like that. I just don't have the patience for it. And I'm patient. Otherwise I wouldn't go about my modelling the way I do. But no, I've got no tolerance for crap. I've put up with so many kits I thought were fairly average to poor recently. It's gone. My tolerance is gone. So I'm moving on to these, get some more quality, more fun, and try and just enjoy the hobby a bit more. And I think that's a good message for all of us, really. Do what you want to do at the end of the day. If you want to have a super challenging thing, then by all means do it. But don't be led by the fact you see other people on these videos. And this is what Phil was saying quite rightly. It was very quite profound in a way. He was saying, think about how those videos are shot. You've got a 6-month build and it's down to 3 minutes of highlights, and you don't see all the disasters. You don't see them spilling paint on the wife's carpet and the wife threatening to divorce you. None of that's in the video. I'm not saying that happened to me, but you know what I mean. None of that. It's all beer and skittles, isn't it? And little bunnies are hopping around the rainbows, and there's a perfect model in the front, Well, that's what they're like, and we don't see the horror that goes on behind the scenes. And you've got to realise what you're seeing. You're seeing it's like Star Wars movie. It's not real, you're seeing an end product. You see an end product, but your model is your vision. Your model is your enjoyment. Your enjoyment. Don't think there's a standard you have got to achieve. That's not true. All you've got to achieve is achieving what you want to. Don't be swayed by what other people have achieved. Don't be moved on to that. Don't feel you've let yourself down, or you haven't hit a standard, or you're not good at it, like Gordon said. No, that's not the case at all. You're just expecting too much, and you can't expect. It's like me when I said, if I lived to be 200 years old, I wouldn't be Martin Kovac still. I mean, I'd be better than I am now, but I still wouldn't be that. I don't think I'd ever get to that standard, because some of these people have an eye to see a vision, like the artist does, painting a painting. They have a vision, and none of us are going to have the same vision, and none of us are going to be able to necessarily achieve the same vision in the same way. Everybody's going to be completely different the way they go about it, and their expectations are going to be different. But it's very important not to feel that it's not an exam, there's not a standard you have to meet, otherwise just pack it in. It's not like that at all, is it? No. Well, it's for your own enjoyment. You're not building the model for anybody else, you're just building it for yourself. And it's like, I think Matt Ball said this, and he said, I build them for me. He said, I don't care what other people think. If they compliment me and they like my work, that's very nice of them, and of course your ego goes up, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's not doing it. He's not building it like a professional model build like Phil was doing years ago. He's not building it for somebody else's benefit, that you're waiting with bated breath and they're going to say it's crap. That's not the case. 99% of us are just building it for ourselves. If you can get people to appreciate it, all well and good. And something else that Phil said, which echoed what I've talked about previously, when I've talked about the figures and the fact that I zoom in with this camera, that 20 times zoom. I haven't done much zooming today because it's not that sort of a video, but be careful with your photography as well. Don't, he said, well, other people, don't be fooled, they show these videos, they're not showing the cock-ups or the bits that are not quite perfect. They show it at a certain angle, and you assume that the whole kit is perfect, and you assume that you see it at this particular angle and it's the same on the other side. but it might not be. Even I've done that in the recent past. But you don't know which kit it was. You'll never know. Calm down. You sound like you got a bit loony. Sorry. But it's a good point you made though, isn't it? You know, the skill is creating, a perception gets created in our head from these videos and from those YouTube videos and from photographs as well. And it may not be reality. It may not be the whole kit that's as good as that. Sometimes the finished model is not always as good as you think it is. Anyway, going back to me and my situation, because I think I've given enough advice there. Get a bit carried away. But going back to my situation, I mentioned that I'm not going to do model builds, but what I will do with all of these is I'm going to go back to my system, which I think is a good way of me doing something similar. Is I do these montage builds, where I take photos throughout the build, and you can see it's here. You can see I'm working here. Sometimes, if it's spraying, it might be somewhere else, over the veg and the roast chicken dinner or whatever. I try not to do it at tea time, or we've tried to make sure that the place is vented in time for any cooking. Just health and safety reasons, honest. But doing these montage videos, which are usually only up to 5, maybe sometimes 10-20 minutes. There's a lot of photos. But it really gives you a feel. It's almost a movie of a build, you know. But it doesn't require all that cutting, and it's easy to do. It doesn't require breaking the flow the same. I can be modelling and just take a photo and carry on, you know, rather than being consciously on camera. And I haven't got the angles and the camera supports and things. I'd need to do that anyway, and I really don't think it's necessary. I mean, you can get from one of my 10-minute build montages, you can get everything that you get from a video. Plus some nice music, you know. But I think it works in the sense that you can see that I've built it and how I've gone about it, and you'll also see, I'll often show what you won't see in some of those rather slick videos. You'll often see where it goes wrong and the problems. As we saw with the Sea Harrier, there was lots of examples of the issues I encountered. You could see it, you know, in the build. So that's what we're going to do. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting today. Please let me know what you're planning to build in the next 6, 12, 18 months throughout end of this year and next year. That's my selection. I'm going to try and stick to it. I'm certainly going to stick to some of those are going to get done. Some of them are. And I've got a very strong desire to do some armour. I've got a very strong desire for the Tomcat. Super strong desire for the Mosquito. The problem, I suppose, with having a YouTube channel is that you then feel very pressurised. This is something that a lot of you won't face if you haven't got a YouTube channel. But you are a little bit under extra pressure, and this is the same when I was on the Flory Forum with the Sea Harrier. It felt mentally quite pressurised because I actually had a complete build thread where I showed step by step, and it was very detailed, probably too detailed in fairness. I overdid it a bit. Too many photos, too many entries. But people could see that I A, was building it, B, that I was having trouble building it, C, what the challenges were. Some people were just dismayed, but it was very nice at the end because I got a lot of praise for having fought through the battle and won through in the end, you know, and got such a good result, you know. I'm not saying it was absolutely perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it, I've got to be honest. I still have that as my thumbnail when I put my iPad on. I've still got the Sea Harrier there because it was a big challenge, and the actual end result is better than I could have hoped for, really. So very, very pleased. It's accurate, you know. I didn't follow the instructions for things like antennas, which tells you to put them in all the wrong places. I used all those photo references to get it just right. So, yeah, there is a satisfaction there. And people did say that, said, look, when you finish this, it's going to look awesome and you'll be really proud of it. And I suppose I am, yeah. But I've no desire to go through that again. No way, okay? So, going to have some good stuff. Hope you're going to have some nice models lined up. Tell me what you're thinking of doing. Hope you enjoyed the chat today. Didn't really show you a lot, just really what's going to happen. more of a thoughtful one today. I hope I've provoked some thoughts. Those of you that feel, and I know a lot of people say this, they feel a bit, they don't want to show their work, people have said as well, because they don't think they're worried about being ridiculed. Well, that's one nice thing about the Flory guys. Nobody's going to ridicule you there, quite the opposite. People will give you advice if you want it. But it's very positive. We don't want any negativity. There's plenty of that in the world. There's so much of it. At the end of the day, I can think of 4 or 5 people who've built this Tomcat, and I'm not going to match their standard. But it's still going to look pretty good. It'll be good enough for me, and that's all that matters, and the same applies to you. Don't worry about what other people think. You'll probably find that you are the biggest critic in the world on your models anyway, and friends, family, neighbours, etc. will look at it and say, you know what, you've made a nice Spitfire, racing car, whatever it is, Tomcat, tank. Other people will admire your skills much more than you do. Don't be too critical. That's the rabbit hole that I keep going down, and it's held me back a lot, and it's one of the reasons I'm not making as many kits, building the models. I'm sure it is. It's a reluctance, Just keep developing. Okay, if you don't feel you're up to something as expensive or complicated as that, it doesn't matter. Just we've got the answer here, haven't we? Start the one I started with. Get yourself something like that. Try your different techniques, maybe some weathering techniques, or whatever it is. You want to have a play around. Just get something that's cheap and cheerful. Don't have to show anybody if it goes wrong, Like be like a bad surgeon and bury your mistakes. I've never done that. No, I haven't. The only one I've thrown away actually in recent years was actually a Matchbox. I've never said this before. I started doing a Matchbox Hunter, and it was warped beyond belief. I couldn't unwarp it. Probably the reason I got it cheap on eBay actually. But I chucked it in the bin. I've got others. I've got other Hunters, Matchbox Hunters in my stash. But this particular one was flawed. I think it'd been on a radiator or something. I don't know. And it ended up in the bin, so I chucked it away like a bad surgeon. But don't do that unless you have to. But it doesn't matter. It wasn't expensive. Again, as long as you're not. Somebody said that they didn't want to build the Mosquito or one of the other Tamiya big ones because their skills aren't good enough. Well, I see people building kits that are a lower standard than me, but they've had great fun and they've produced a nice result. And I see people with a much higher standard than me as well. Phil Flory, Spencer Pollard, and some of these people. Again, it doesn't matter. People look at mine and have made comments and said, "You're way better than you think you are." And that is not a Peter Oxley thing. That is a thing about a lot of us. I think most modelers are actually better than they realise they are. I've seen people. I've spoken to people at Telford. I'm trying to think, was it last year or the previous one? And I was going gaga at the Sea Harriers actually. And the guy said, yeah, it didn't come out quite as I'd hoped. And I was thinking, really? Because I thought it was. Mine ended up probably very similar to his, but it was that was before mine was done, and I was thinking, this is awesome. What? That's beautiful work. And I said to him, this is awesome work. You've got to be joking, yeah? You're too modest, like Kenny Everett. You're telling them the plot. Oh no, I'm not that good. Yes, you are. And a lot of you are the same. You're better than you think you are. So there's a takeaway for today. Anyway, I've really rambled on. Hope you found it interesting having a talk about these things. I think that the way we address it mentally is really important. And the worst thing in the world is what people have said at the weekend. And just to round off, people were saying, this is why I don't build and why I've got a huge stash. Well, I've got no room to talk, have I? I've got a huge stash because I haven't got the confidence. I know I'm going to ruin it. Well, but you have to start somewhere, don't you? So this is why I say, start with something modest. Get yourself a nice Harrier or a Hunter or a Spitfire or whatever it is. Messerschmitt, Mustang, and whatever. I mean, Airfix do some really affordable stuff that's really nicely moulded, some of their new stuff. That's under £20-30, and it's not so critical. And you can hone your skills on that, and just take it one step at a time. Don't be put off building at all. Don't be put off building at all, because that's exactly where I've been. I think if I'm really opening up here, and being honest about it. I think that's been the problem. I think I've just not been. It's not a lack of confidence in me. It's a lack. It's this wading through the trenches thing. You know, this feeling of it's just an uphill struggle and it's just not fun. And I just don't want to embark on another one like that. All the more reason to go for something small, straightforward, and fun, or something that's supremely high quality that's not going to give you those problems. So that's my advice. Anyway, happy modelling to everybody. I hope that was some positive words of encouragement for you. And please let me all know, seriously, I'm interested in what other people are building and what, especially if you take on board my comments, what that might encourage you to build. Be interested to hear what you've got to say, so thanks a lot. Anyway, hope you'll give me a thumbs up, give me a 10 out of 10 with a like. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share and subscribe, you know. And don't forget to subscribe. The little circle is down, usually down here. And I'll put up a couple of perhaps interesting, nice builds I've done to perhaps encourage myself and others up here and over here. And with that, I'll leave you. I've got some interesting new stuff coming through. We've got some lovely new interesting items from ICM. One subject, which is an unusual one for me, which I haven't done before, which I'll talk about in a week or so. And we've got some interesting kits coming through in November. We've got some from Airfix coming through. We've got some from Zukimura, and also Tamiya. Tamiya have announced they're doing the the Tamiya F35B, the British version, the vertical takeoff VTOL version. Interesting, and we know how good a kit that is, so that'll be something to look at, perhaps. So look after yourselves. Stay safe. Don't let it get on top of you. Don't be demotivated by bad thoughts. I think the biggest problem that many of us suffer from, if I was to just sum it up now, it's a feeling of inadequacy compared to some of these modelling greats. You know, well, these modelling greats, they weren't always modelling greats. They've got there incrementally, and that's what we're all on a journey in life, aren't we? We've got to try and make each step a better one if we can. But more important than it being a better one is that it is an enjoyable step to take, and I think that's a lesson we all need to learn. So thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, take care, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate your time, and until next time, thanks a lot and bye for now.